Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions, now in its 26th season. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team. Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 24/7 with Fight on State. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ's Ryan Riskey. And each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntingdon. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By RE/MAX Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Brent Kogan Electrical Services, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, the power of physical therapy. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs, candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Harry's Construction, if you can dream it, we can create it. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
Welcome into Nittany Nation Overtime. We usually record this show on Sunday mornings, but after the recording, we had major breaking news out of Happy Valley as Penn State has fired offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich. I'm joined by Neil Rudell. And Neil, during the show, we debated whether Yurcich was on the hot seat, and I think it's pretty clear he was.
Yeah, James was very critical of him yesterday after the game. He said they have to call the game in a way that they get their quarterback into a rhythm. Clearly, Drew Auer didn't play well. In some ways, he has regressed since earlier in the season. So yeah, that was the tip-off. Didn't take long. He waited one day.
And are you surprised he did this mid-season?
You know, with the money that's tied to not only James but the assistant coaches, I don't like to see it. To me, you probably were going to win these next two games regardless. I just don't like the idea that you're firing assistant coaches during the season. I guess it gives him a jump start on who he wants to hire, and he can go through a pool of candidates. There'll be other coaches that are looking for OCs as well, but that part of it I don't like. Clearly, it looks like Yurcich is the scapegoat. That said, his body of work has not been good, particularly recently when you look at Ohio State and Michigan. I think they were only 5 of 30 on third downs. That's a measuring stick for us offensive coordinators. Go back to the Illinois game a couple years ago when they couldn't get it in on a 2-point conversion. So his work had been uneven. I thought he's a nice enough guy, but kind of disappointing it had to end like this.
Right, and the big struggles against Ohio State and Michigan. The offense only averaged 19.3 points per game under Yurcich in the 6 games against Ohio State and Michigan, in which they lost all 6.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they didn't put Ohio State away on defense a couple years ago, and they didn't fire anybody. You can look at it a lot of different ways. I mean, to me, and I don't know what all went on behind the scenes. How much did James empower Yurcich to strictly run the game, and how much are James's fingerprints on some of these things? I know he wanted to run the quarterback more, and quarterback ran effectively yesterday until he fumbled. So that's what we kind of don't know. Was Yurcich carrying out James's plan, and now Yurcich is getting axed for it? That's something we don't know.
And now kind of the more interesting thing, this is the 6th offensive coordinator now under James Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, how many more people can he blame? I mean, are all these offensive coordinators not that good? Joe Moorhead was the only one that you could really say did an excellent job. So this will be number 6 in 11 years. So I don't think that speaks well.
Yeah, and as you said, you know, how many more people can you blame? Because, you know, you've only had 2 defensive coordinators, and you don't know how much longer Manny Diaz will even be here until he might get a head coaching job.
Yeah, there was just some odd things that happened in that game yesterday that I don't blame Yurcich for. I mean, it's not Yurcich's job to decide when you punt, but you got to have some play. You got to have some better plays. You have a quarterback that you thought would have been further along. I know the receivers have been an issue in terms of separation and just the overall quality and experience of the group. So, hey, this is an unfortunate part of today's college football world, and Penn State's part of that.
All right, well, Neil, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll get into the rest of the show as previously recorded.
What I'm doing, getting right to it. Yeah, the money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I do it. Yeah, you know what it is. Hey, we doing it big. Look up, there is no limit, no, we cannot settle for this. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, it's been on live. You don't believe it, just watch.
Welcome into Nittany Nation Overtime. I'm Ryan Riskey, joined by Mark Brennan, Neil Rudell, and former Nittany Lion Justin Kerpakis. And guys, I'm just going to put this out there. 3-17. That's Penn State's record under James Franklin against top 10 teams. And this past Saturday just feels like another disappointment.
Yeah, it was another opportunity. Had a lot of things going for them. They had already played. I think most of us thought they had a chance to split with Ohio State or Michigan this year. But, you know, I just think that, you know, James certainly is the common thread between a lot of these losses, things that come up during the game. I don't know whether the game is too big for him, these windows, but, you know, you get out coached by a coach who isn't there. I mean, I just, you know, and it wasn't just the coaching. You know, I give Michigan a lot of credit, but just a lot of things that happened in the game, lack of adjustments. We'll get to decisions, but just another demerit.
Yeah, I think the last year of divisional play in the Big Ten, and Penn State's clearly not in the same league as Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They can play kind of near that level, but until you beat these teams, you can't say that you're there. And now the issue is you don't play Michigan again for 2 more years.
Well, that's a good
thing. Yeah, well, but if you want to get to that standard,
right,
I think you'd prefer to. I mean, and it's bigger than that. I mean, this is 12 straight losses to Big Ten teams ranked in the top 10, dating back to the Big Ten championship game in 2016. And it just, all these games, there's a common theme. If there's a wrong button to be pushed in the clutch, it is pushed. You know, whether it's going for it on 4th down or chasing 2-point conversions, these things, they all kind of fall apart, and then nobody steps up and makes big plays. We've seen it over and over in these situations.
I appreciate you guys having me back. It's always fun.
Thank
here.
you, Justin.
Yeah, enjoy it very much. And so, Neil, you're always nice enough to ask me which game I want to go to, and I specifically picked this one because I thought we'd be sitting here talking about a great win.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not the way it goes, or it went. I'll say that from my side as a former player, my heart does go out to the players. You saw Theo get upset after, and I've been there. I was on my senior season was 5-7, and I can assure you there's not a player in there that's heart wasn't broke and wants to win these big games. So.
And just kind of another thing, it's like, if Penn State won this game, they would have been in a good position to make it potentially to the Big Ten championship because they hold the tiebreaker over Ohio State and Michigan if they were to all finish 11-1.
Yeah, I mean, this arguably could have been James's greatest win. I mean, you know, the Ohio State game, which was, you know, came on a blocked field goal, and then they beat Wisconsin. This was the number 2 team in the country against a real physical team. And, you know, the decisions aside, offensively, I think there's so much concern about a regression of the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this team's probably going to be 10-2, right? And it's so weird because Penn State's gotten to this point where Franklin has gotten it to this level, and I just don't know that it's going to go any further than this. I mean, I hate to say that because I respect him as a coach, and I think he's done a great job of pulling this program out of a very difficult spot. But we've seen it over and over. 10-2 is nothing to sneeze at. But if you want to be that championship contender, you have to be better than you've shown. Now, it'll be a little bit different next year with the
Right.
12-team playoff. But listen, I mean, it would have been nice to be able to beat one of these teams, Ohio State or Michigan, this year to prove that you're at least capable of doing that.
It was all set. Yes, a perfect fall day. Air was crisp. Felt like football. A big one. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But as always today, the sun came up, and we're here filming a nice segment.
And Mark, you said, they have a very realistic chance to go 10-2. It's like there's a lot of fan bases and teams that would love to be 10-2. We're here. It just feels like another disappointment.
But we're not the ones setting the expectations, right? I mean, I guess we probably are. We're thinking that maybe they should be better than they are, but they're the ones who think they should be competing for Big Ten titles and for college football playoff appearances. So it's not just us. I mean, it's them.
I think it's an indicator of the gap between, say it, the elite programs and everybody else. Penn State has clearly shown they're the third best team in the Big Ten, like the tallest midget. But I just think that I say that lovingly. They just haven't been able to close that gap with the big boys.
And the thing is, it's back in 2018, we had that very emotional post-game press conference from James saying we need to get from great to elite, and it just feels like they haven't really taken very many steps forward towards closing that gap towards those elite programs.
Yeah, and the in-game management is a problem. You look at going for two at the end of the first half when you did get a touchdown, you got the home crowd involved. I thought that was curious. I thought it was even worse at the end of the game when you basically ended your last chance by going for two. So some of those decisions, and then not punting with 4 minutes to go, and you're sitting on a couple timeouts, was also bothersome.
Yeah, and arguably your MVP in the Ohio State and Michigan games is the punter. I mean, that guy did a great job. Riley Thompson pinned him down at the 3-yard line at a real key moment. This is 2 times where James Franklin said points are at a premium. I just don't get, if points are at a premium, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go for it on 4th down deep in your own territory. I mean, let the punter do his job. Let the defense get out there. Justin, you know that. Let the defense get out there and do its job.
For sure, and I guess that we're here the day after, as numerous times we have been over the years, and it's like, what is the reason that we're not getting that elite? And so I'm sure if we had that answer and we could send it up to State College today, they would use it and put it into play. And so it's like, what is it? It's hard to put your finger on.
Well, if they're counting on me for an answer, or for Neil for an answer, now Justin, they may be counting on you. You'd have a good answer, but I don't think we have it.
They talk about the analytics. I mean, you don't want coach to be a robot. I mean, and the difference in Ohio State, in my mind, it didn't bother me. Everyone else it did. That Penn State didn't punt at Ohio State. They were almost at midfield, and you're on the road. They hadn't been at midfield much against Ohio State. Here, you're at home. If you punt it, the crowd's going to get behind you. You have 2 timeouts. You're keeping your team in the game. You owe it to your defense.
And the defense did a great job keeping them in the game. We got to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to discuss how the defense showed up to play in another big game that comes up when Nittany Nation Overtime returns.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Reed and Selaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. And by McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back into Nittany Nation Overtime. Ryan Riskey joined by Mark Brennan, Neil Rudell, and Justin Serpakis. And guys, the defense, they played at a championship level once again against a big team. Like when you hold Ohio State to 20 points and Michigan to 25, you should be winning those games.
Even if the offense gives something, then that 25 and 20 points or whatever it was aren't even going to be that high. It was good enough to win. They had their faults too, some key situations. losing the edge, kind of getting in the wrong gap. But overall, they certainly played well to win. You got to win 2 of the 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams. And I would say that you could probably say that we won the defensive yesterday and just didn't do enough in the other roles.
You know, one thing, Michigan was so patient. I mean, they ran 30 straight times. Now, I did throw one pass that they got a pass interference call, but that's like unheard of. In the stats, 30 runs in the second half, not one pass. And they made themselves James always talks about we want to make them one-dimensional. Michigan volunteered for that and did it, and Penn State just couldn't stop it again.
You see, I think that was more of a reflection on the Penn State offense than the Penn State defense. I think they realized that the Penn State offense wasn't going to be able to do anything. And what happened? The Penn State offense, now give Aller credit, he's protected the ball all year, but he fumbles the ball, short field touchdown. Yeah. They go for it on 4th down, or short field field goal, excuse me.
Right.
But a field goal in this game was like a touchdown as points were at a premium. They go for it on 4th down in the 4th quarter, don't get it, short field touchdown. I mean, and that's where I think you look at the way some of these other coaching staffs operate, and they're patient, and they trust their defense, and they trust their special teams. And I just don't think you get that out of Penn State. The defense, to me, Justin, I agree. I think it played well enough to win. What I will say is, in 2 games, the defense has failed to make a big blockbuster play, force a turnover, get something done. I know that's asking a lot, but given what we've seen from this offense, they need it.
Hey, you got beat by the run against Michigan and the pass against Ohio State. I think James panics, and he's not patient in certain situations. And, you know, the 2-point conversion was one. I just think that there's, you know, it gets down to the crunch. And that 2-point conversion, they were kind of chasing the whole half because it's 17-9. And you know, you just to tie the game, you need a 2-point conversion.
Obviously, even earlier in the first half when they scored the touchdown in the Aller run, going for 2 to make it a field goal, you know, that early in the game just kind of seemed a little puzzling. You know, if that's later in the game, I think it's a different story.
Well, you know, he said they were down 5, they were down 4. Yeah, you wanted to get it to 3. You know, hey, I think they're just asking too much of their young quarterback against the top of the top college football teams. I think they've proven that this year.
Well, the thing that I liked against Maryland is that they gave Aller the opportunity to set up the run with the passing game. He had 10 first down completions in that game. He had 3 first down passes against Michigan. Now, I'm not saying you come out and you go pass crazy, but they didn't have to steal signals. They knew Penn State was going to run it every single first down, right? And I think when Franklin said after the game they have to put him in a better position, I think that's what he's getting at. But how are you coming to this conclusion 10 games into the season? I mean, this is.
Well, you're the head coach.
That's
how
what
are
I'm
you
saying.
coming to this conclusion after this game?
That's what I mean. How are you coming to that conclusion this far into the season? They should know this already.
I mean, that's a really good point, and obviously, you know, we're going to have to take another break, but when we come back, we're going to discuss some questionable play calling and the performance of Mike Yursich. That's when Nittany Nation Overtime returns.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Monarch Cleaners for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By RE/MAX Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. And by Star Beverage. No matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back into Nittany Nation Overtime. I'm Ryan Risky, joined by Mark Brennan, Neil Rudell, and former Nittany Lion Justin Kirpakis. And guys, offensively, they just didn't get the job done against the big team again, and it seemed like there was a lot of questionable play calling. Mark, you said that they ran the ball 19 times on first down, and it was just getting predictable.
Yeah, and listen, I typically don't have an issue with running the ball on first down, and if you look, they actually averaged a decent number of yards, but I think it was just the predictability. Again, you know, you're worried about a team stealing signs, and all you're doing is doing exactly what they know you're going to do. I think at this point of the season, you have to have trust in your quarterback and give him the opportunity to do some things on first down. They just could never get that going. And, you know, again, you have a situation where the wide receivers don't step up. I mean, just so many things that went wrong with that offense. And to me, you go back to that. They get down to the 3-yard line. first and goal from the 3, and you go to a jumbo package, and then you break out of it, and you try to run Katron Allen wide, and you throw 2 passes. It's like almost like they're overthinking everything here.
Yeah, the receivers are just not getting separation when a lot of times when they complete a pass, they're short of the sticks. There was a lot of confusion yesterday in terms of looking at the sidelines and getting into the right sets. You mentioned the quarterback. James has definitely wanted the quarterback to run more. He's said that the last 2 or 3 weeks. And Aller ran well yesterday. He made a touchdown. He made some key first downs, but he also fumbled. So you're gonna start running around with an inexperienced kind of statuesque quarterback, and he had a big turnover.
I'm going to pivot a little bit because as a defensive guy, offense isn't my thing. This sign stealing thing and the Harbaugh being suspended, it's the most bizarre thing to me. Number one, a head coach that, if you're there to prepare all week, game day, the hay's in the barn.
Yeah.
They did it 3 times earlier this year. Their entire program and organizations acted like they're the victim. I mean, there was cheating that went on. Went, and so then the us versus the world and all that, it's like, this was a slap on the wrist just to not be there during 3 games. And so the whole thing is bizarre to me. There was cheating. You did get caught. This is a slap on the wrist. And they were able to manufacture it into this us versus the world thing. It's the most bizarre. They're not victims.
Right. Yeah. Multiple years too. So, and just to be clear, this is because they dispatched people, off campus. You're not allowed to start running around to other programs and steal their signs. Everybody's doing it within the
Sure.
TV and technology.
I'd love to ask him, what would you suggest the punishment be? Nothing, just that guy got fired and, we're all good now? It's
probably
bizarre.
wanted a financial.
Well, I will say this, though. I give Michigan credit for that. As much of a circus as that became, they didn't panic. I mean, they came in and played well. And Justin, I completely agree. They were playing the victim card as much as you could possibly play it. But at the end of the day, they knew what they had to do to win the game, and they were able to pull it off against the Penn State team with everything on the line.
On Friday when I heard it, I said to myself, this is just going to motivate these guys, which is a very good team as it is.
Yep.
So I'm not sure how much of a punishment it actually was.
Right, and you kind of hope that when the NCAA finally concludes their investigation, whenever that is, that they do lay a harsher punishment down than the Big Ten did.
Hey, real quick, Justin, update us on what you're doing these days.
Appreciate, as always, enjoy being down here with you guys, and still owning and operating Atlas Therapy, outpatient physical therapy clinics in State College and Altoona. We recently moved our State College clinic to a much bigger space, outfitted with technology that no one else in the area has. We continue to be the best physical therapy in State College in Altoona, and we never like to see people come see us because that means they have an injury or something they're recovering from, but we're by far the best in the area, and now we have a place in State College that reflects that high quality treatment, and soon we're going to have the facelift in Altoona too, so
cool.
Come see us at Atlas Therapy.
Can you help on third down?
No.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, congrats on, the successful practice. We got to take a break, but when we come back, we crown our Nitwit of the Week. Stay tuned.
Don't miss a minute of Nittany Nation Overtime, now also on Apple and Spotify.
The Nitwits are being brought to you by Brent Kogan Electrical Services, lighting the way for you. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
All right, Nitwit of the Week time. Looks like, Neil, you're gaining some traction now. You're tied with me. Mark, you're still in the lead just by 1 now.
And Kerpakis, there's some pressure. The guest has not won anything. Bubkus. So.
My brethren are terrible at picking.
I know.
Mike Irwin laid it all out. Well, you guys don't get twitchy. You're in my rearview mirror here. I'm coming up.
Pressure's on you this time, Justin, except, the rule is the winner of the previous week goes first, so Neil, you're
I'm
up.
going to say Penn State 29, Rutgers 6.
Wow. This is a tough game, just because Rutgers has actually played well at times, but
Go
they're
ahead
coming off of that ugly game.
Pick Rutgers.
So, no, I will not do that. I will go Penn State 42-10. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think Penn State's going to come out and play well, get the offense going against a team that it knows it could dominate.
I'm going to go Penn State wins this one 34-13.
So this will be the first Penn State home game I'll be at this year, me and my family, and so it's my first one. I'm really looking forward to them bouncing back big, so I say 48-14.
Senior day for Penn State. Thank you for watching us on Nittany Nation Overtime. Be sure to tune in next week. Justin, thanks again for joining us. We'll be back to recap the game over Rutgers next Sunday.
Thanks for watching WTAJ's Nittany Nation Overtime. Tonight's show is brought to you by DeLeo Games, Cisney & O'Donnell, The Student Bookstore, Joe Comfort Toyota, Legends Power Sports, and Belding & Mall.
The NitWits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed & Salaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By McAlear's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through, one-stop beer store. By Brent Kogan Electrical Services, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, the power of physical therapy. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Harry's Construction, if you can dream it, we can create it. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.